Hello, everyone. Have you ever stayed in a hotel or inn that just didn't feel right? Imagine a strange man following you from the lobby to the pool, then knocking on your door in the dead of night. Or hearing mysterious noises in your room that lead you to something or someone you never expected. In today's stories, we'll dive into two terrifying experiences where people unknowingly checked into places filled with more than just unsettling sounds. Have you ever had a similar experience? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. It was a hot summer day in Phoenix, Arizona, and Anna was excited for a much-needed family getaway. She was 19, spending time with her mom and younger brother, Kyle. They had come to visit relatives, but had decided to stay at a hotel instead. It was a large, yet ordinary place, far enough from the bustle of the city, but comfortable enough for a few nights. Little did they know, the night ahead would turn their peaceful vacation into a chilling nightmare. As Anna and Kyle settled into the lobby, waiting for their mom to check them in, Anna couldn't help but notice a man entering the hotel. He was in his mid-40s, wearing a faded hoodie and jeans, nothing that would normally stand out in a crowd, but something about him felt off. He didn't approach the counter like everyone else. Instead, he walked straight past it and sat down across from them on the couch. His eyes flicked toward them every now and then, though Anna tried to brush it off as paranoia. But the feeling of unease clung to her, like an invisible shadow. "Don't stare," she thought to herself. "You're just being dramatic." But as the minutes passed, that nagging feeling grew stronger. The man didn't seem like he was just waiting for something. He was watching them. Anna's stomach twisted, and she tried to focus on something, anything else. But she couldn't shake the thought that maybe, just maybe, he'd followed them in. Why wasn't he checking in? Was he waiting for the perfect moment? "Anna," her mom called from the front desk, pulling her from her thoughts. "Our room's ready, let's go." Anna forced a smile and grabbed Kyle's hand, eager to leave the lobby. But as they walked to their room, she glanced back over her shoulder at the man. His gaze was still locked on them, his expression unreadable. Something wasn't right. But for now, there was nothing more to do than to try and forget about it. Little did they know, this was only the beginning of an encounter that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. After unpacking and settling into their room, Anna, her mom, and Kyle decided to take a dip in the hotel pool. It had been a long day, and the refreshing cool water seemed like the perfect way to unwind. They laughed, splashed, and enjoyed the peacefulness of the private area. The pool area was quiet, with only a few people around, but Anna couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The strange man from the lobby was still on her mind. Minutes passed, and Anna tried to ignore the growing tension. She focused on Kyle, who was playing with his toy in the shallow end, trying to convince herself that everything was fine. But then, as if out of nowhere, the man appeared. He walked into the pool area, his eyes immediately locking onto them. He was dressed in a dark sweater and jeans, far too warm for swimming, and he just stood there, watching. Anna's mom noticed him almost instantly, her face tightening with concern. She leaned in and whispered urgently, "If he doesn't leave in 5 minutes, we're going back to the room." Anna could feel her heart race. Her mom's nerves were never easily rattled, so seeing her like this only amplified Anna's own anxiety. 5 minutes, passed, then 10. He didn't move. With a sharp look toward her mother, Anna gathered Kyle, and they quickly gathered their things. As they headed back to the room, Anna couldn't shake the eerie feeling that the man wasn't just lurking. He was waiting. But for what? The question haunted her as they retreated to the safety of their room, unaware of the terror that was about to unfold. Back in their hotel room, Anna, her mom, and Kyle tried to shake off the unease from the pool. It was nearing 7:30, and they decided to watch a rented movie to relax. Anna could sense her mom's tension, though. Every so often her eyes would dart toward the door, and Anna knew something wasn't right. The man from the pool, the strange feeling in the air, it all felt like too much of a coincidence. She tried to distract herself with the movie, but it wasn't enough to calm the gnawing fear building inside her. Then, the sound came. A soft knock on the door. Anna glanced at her mom, who stood up immediately, her face pale. "I'll get it," Anna offered, trying to sound calm, though her voice shook slightly. She reached for the door handle, assuming it was just housekeeping. But when she opened the door, she froze. Standing there was the same man from the lobby and the pool. His face twisted into an unsettling smile. "Hello," he said, waving slightly. "How was your swim?" Anna's heart pounded in her chest. She stood motionless, her mind racing. Why was he here? What did he want? Before she could respond, her mom rushed from the bathroom, pulling her back with a swift jerk. "Get inside, now," she commanded, slamming the door shut and locking it. Anna's stomach churned with fear as her mom called the front desk to report the incident. The man was still standing there, and Anna couldn't shake the feeling that he was waiting for something, waiting for them to make the wrong move. The air in the room felt thick with tension as Anna and her mom stood by the door, listening for any sounds outside. The man hadn't moved. Every few seconds, Anna glanced nervously at the peephole, her pulse racing. She could still hear the faint echo of his footsteps in the hall, as though he were just waiting for them to let their guard down. Her mom was on the phone with the front desk, her voice tight but controlled. "Yes, I need to report a man who's been following us. He came to our room. We want to change rooms immediately." Anna could hear the woman on the other end of the line asking for details, but her mom wasn't listening. She kept her gaze locked on the door, her hand tightly gripping the phone. Anna could feel the weight of the situation sinking in. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding. This man, this stranger, had been watching them, following them, and now he was standing outside their room, refusing to leave. After what felt like an eternity, her mom ended the call and turned to Anna. "We're moving to another room. Now." They quickly gathered their things, not bothering to pack properly. There was no time for that. Anna felt a wave of relief mixed with dread relief that they were leaving, but fear that they might not be safe just yet. As they stepped into the hallway, Anna looked back one last time. The hallway was empty. But something told her this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Time. The hallway was empty. But something told her this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The new room felt like a temporary safe haven. But Anna couldn't shake the feeling that the danger wasn't over. The man's face, his unsettling gaze still lingered in her mind, even though he was nowhere to be seen now. Her mom locked the door, then checked the windows, pacing nervously around the room. It wasn't just the man anymore. It was the feeling of being trapped, of not knowing what was going to happen next. The room was quieter than the last, but the silence only heightened Anna's sense of unease. She could hear her mom making a few calls, her voice now calm but sharp, as if trying to keep control over a situation she couldn't fully understand. Anna tried to settle down, but every noise outside the room, every creak of the hallway made her jump. "Mom, do you think he's gone?" Anna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mom didn't answer right away. She just stood there, staring at the door as if willing it to stay locked. "I don't know, Anna, but I'm not taking any chances." It was nearly 9 o'clock by the time they both tried to relax. Anna kept her eyes on the door, her body tense, fully aware that they weren't safe yet. She could hear faint voices in the hallway, but they were too far away to make sense of. It wasn't until she heard the sound of footsteps, a heavy, deliberate walk, that her heart dropped. The man's footsteps, and they were getting closer. The sound of the footsteps grew louder, echoing in the hallway outside their door. Anna's heart raced in her chest, and she could feel her throat tighten. Her mom, still standing by the door, glanced at her with wide, fearful eyes. Without a word, she motioned for Anna to stay quiet. The steps were slow, methodical, almost like the man was deliberately making his presence known. Anna's breath hitched as she strained to listen. He was close now, right outside their door. She could hear him pause, then shuffle slightly, as if he were just standing there, waiting for them to make the next move. The silence was unbearable. "What do we do?" Anna whispered, her voice trembling. Her mom shook her head, her hand still gripping the doorknob. "We wait. We don't open the door, no matter what." The seconds stretched into what felt like minutes. Every creak of the floorboards in the hallway made Anna's skin crawl. She didn't know if the man had a plan, or if he was just messing with them. But what if he wasn't alone? What if he had more people waiting just outside? Suddenly, A loud knock shook the door, followed by a voice, a familiar, twisted voice calling out, "I know you're in there." The words hung in the air like a suffocating cloud. Anna's stomach dropped. They couldn't stay here any longer. Without another word, her mom grabbed her hand and yanked her toward the window. It was time to escape. Her mom didn't hesitate. With a swift motion, she yanked the curtains aside and shoved the window open. The cold night air rushed into the room, cutting through the tension that had gripped them. Anna's heart raced as her mom reached for her hand, guiding her to the edge of the window. They had to move fast. There was no time to waste. Anna looked down at the dark alley below. The drop wasn't far, but it still made her stomach lurch. Her mom was already climbing out, her movements frantic but controlled. "You first," she urged, her voice shaky but firm. Anna hesitated for a moment, the fear gripping her chest. What if they were too late? What if the man was already inside? But before she could dwell on the thought, her mom's reassuring grip pulled her out. Anna scrambled over the ledge, the rough concrete scraping her fingers. But she didn't care. She had to get out. The alley was quiet, eerily so. No footsteps, no sounds of pursuit. But Anna knew better than to trust the silence. They kept running, their breaths heavy in the night air, their footsteps echoing in the emptiness. Finally, they reached the street. They didn't stop. They couldn't. As they hurried toward the nearest, well-lit area, Anna looked back one last time. There was no sign of the man, but she knew this wasn't the end, only the beginning of a new nightmare. Jake arrived in Asheville, North Carolina, after a long day of meetings. He was 24, in town for business, and exhausted from the grueling drive. The Oakwood Inn, a quiet, old hotel located on the outskirts of town, was the only place with a room available on such short notice. It looked worn, with a hint of its age showing through peeling paint and cracked windows, but it would have to do. The staff was polite, and the room was cozy enough, though it had an eerie, almost forgotten feel about it. After a quick dinner, Jake retired to his room, ready to relax. He kicked off his shoes, sank into the armchair, and turned on the television. The room was silent, the only sound coming from the low hum of the air conditioner. But as Jake settled in, the quiet began to feel unnatural. He couldn't feeling that something was off. At first, it was a soft crackling noise, almost imperceptible. He paused the movie, listening intently. The sound came again, this time louder. It was like something shifting, scraping against the floor, or maybe something in the walls. Jake brushed it off as old pipes or the house settling. But then the sound grew sharper, more distinct, a faint crackling, like dry leaves being crushed underfoot. He turned up the volume on the television, trying to drown it out, but it only got worse. The noise came in waves, almost like it was moving closer, then farther away. Jake's skin prickled. The hairs on his neck stood up. He glanced at the closet, wondering if he had imagined it. But the sound came again, closer now, unmistakable. It was coming from inside the closet. His heart raced. The sound was too deliberate, too consistent to be a random creak or crack. It was as though something or someone was inside that closet, watching him. Jake stood up, his body tense with fear, staring at the closet door as if it would open on its own. He didn't want to check. Didn't want to know. But something deep inside told him he had no choice. Jake's heartbeat echoed in his ears as he stood frozen, staring at the closet door. The crackling sound continued, now louder, like someone was rummaging through his things, shifting clothes, searching for something. His mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation. It had to be the pipes. It had to be. But the sound was too rhythmic, too deliberate. And why had it stopped whenever he turned the television up? With a deep breath, Jake took a hesitant step toward the closet. Each footstep felt like a drumbeat, growing louder and louder in the silence of the room. He reached for the door handle, his hand trembling slightly. As his fingers brushed against the cold metal, the sound from inside the closet stopped abruptly. For a split second, there was silence, utter silence, like the air itself had frozen. Jake waited, hoping for a noise, any sound, to confirm he was just being paranoid. But all he could hear was his own breath, shallow and rapid. Then, without warning, the sound resumed. Only this time, it wasn't coming from inside the closet. It was coming from behind him. A cold chill washed over Jake as he spun around. His heart stopped. Standing just a few feet away, barely visible in the dim light, was a shadowy figure. It was tall, almost unnaturally so, its form shrouded in darkness. The figure didn't move, didn't make a sound, it just stood there, staring at him. Jake's mind screamed at him to run, but his body wouldn't obey. He was paralyzed by fear, and then, the figure stepped forward. Jake's pulse thundered in his chest, as the shadowy figure inched closer. It moved silently, almost unnaturally smooth, like it wasn't bound by the same laws of physics. Every instinct in Jake screamed for him to run, but his legs felt like lead. He was rooted to the spot, staring at the dark silhouette, unable to tear his eyes away. The figure was tall, its body indistinct, as if the darkness itself had taken shape. No face, no features, just an overwhelming presence that filled the room with a sense of dread. The air grew thick, as though the very atmosphere was pressing in on him. The cold, chilling air from the closet was now all around him, suffocating. Without a sound, the figure raised its hand. Jake's stomach lurched. He wanted to scream, to shout for help, but the words stuck in his throat, frozen in fear. The figure moved closer, its hand now outstretched, fingers long and unnaturally slender. The closer it got, the more Jake felt a pull of magnetic force, dragging him toward it, against his will. In that moment, he couldn't think. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. The figure was almost within reach, the shadows now spilling across the floor, creeping towards Jake's feet. The temperature in the room dropped even further, the cold seeping into his bones, making every muscle seize in terror. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure vanished. The room was silent again, the oppressive weight of its presence lifting. But Jake knew deep down that it wasn't gone. Not really. A chill ran down his spine as he realized something worse. It was still here, watching him, waiting. Jake's breath came in shallow gasps, his body trembling uncontrollably as the silence of the room swallowed him whole. He stood there, frozen, staring at the spot where the shadow had been just moments before. His mind was spinning, trying to rationalize what had just happened. Had it been real, or had his fear made him hallucinate? But deep down, he knew it was no illusion. The feeling in his gut, the suffocating cold, the shadow that had been so undeniably real, they were all too much to dismiss. He forced himself to take a step backward, his feet unsteady, his heart hammering in his chest. The urge to flee surged within him, but the room felt like a trap. He couldn't stay here, not with whatever that thing was still lurking in the shadows. His instincts screamed at him to get out, to find a way to escape. Jake turned toward the door, but as his hand reached for the handle, a sudden, sharp knock sounded from the other side. His body jerked in shock, and he froze again, not daring to move. Was it the figure, trying to draw him out? Or was it someone from the hotel unaware of the terror he was experiencing? Housekeeping. A muffled voice called through the door, followed by another knock. Jake's stomach twisted in confusion. It couldn't be housekeeping. Not at this hour. It was far too late. His mind raced. Should he open the door? Or should he just hide, stay silent, and pray that whatever had haunted him would go away? He couldn't stay in this room. He couldn't trust anything. With his heart pounding, Jake bolted for the window, flinging it open wide. It was his only chance. Jake's hand shook as he gripped the window frame, his mind racing. The knock on the door echoed in his ears, but he couldn't focus on it anymore. The room, the air, everything felt suffocating. He needed to get out. The window was his only option. Without thinking, he swung his legs over the edge, feeling the cold night air rush against his skin. His heart hammered as he crawled out, the harsh wind biting into his face. He was halfway out of the window when he heard another knock, a frantic, insistent pounding on the door. Then came the voice again, louder this time. "Housekeeping, we need to speak with you." Jake's blood ran cold. The voice was no longer muffled, it was too clear, too close. It wasn't the voice of a hotel employee. It was the same chilling tone, like a whisper from the shadows. Panic surged through him. It wasn't just a figure in the room. It had been following him, watching him, and now it was trying to get him to open the door, to invite it back in. He didn't waste another second. With every ounce of strength, Jake pushed himself out the window, his feet hitting the ground with a muffled thud. He landed awkwardly, stumbling before finding his footing. The cold air hit him like a slap, but it was nothing compared to the icy grip of terror that had taken hold of him inside that room. He looked back at the hotel. The room was dark, silent again, but Jake knew it was watching him. There was no turning back. Jake ran. He didn't stop. He couldn't. The nightmare had only just begun. Jake's hands shook as he gripped the window frame, his mind racing. The knock on the door echoed in his ears, but he couldn't focus on it anymore. The room, the air, everything felt suffocating. He needed to get out. The window was his only option. Without thinking, he swung his legs over the edge, feeling the cold night air rush against his skin. His heart hammered as he crawled out, the harsh wind biting into his face. He was halfway out of the window when he heard another knock, a frantic, insistent pounding on the door. Then came the voice again, louder this time. "Housekeeping. We need to speak with you." Jake's blood ran cold. The voice was no longer muffled, it was too clear, too close. It wasn't the voice of a hotel employee. It was the same chilling tone, like a whisper from the shadows. Panic surged through him. It wasn't just a figure in the room. It had been following him, watching him, and now it was trying to get him to open the door, to invite it back in. He didn't waste another second. With every ounce of strength, Jake pushed himself out the window, his feet hitting the ground with a muffled thud. He landed awkwardly, stumbling before finding his footing. The cold air hit him like a slap, but it was nothing compared to the icy grip of terror that had taken hold of him inside that room. He looked back at the hotel. The room was dark, silent again, but Jake knew it was watching him. There was no turning back. Jake ran. He didn't stop. He couldn't. The nightmare had only just begun. Well, that was one chilling ride, wasn't it? Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced anything like this you just heard? A strange figure watching you from the shadows, or eerie noises that couldn't be explained? Drop your stories in the comments below. I'd love to know if you've had a terrifying encounter of your own. And if you enjoyed tonight's tales, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on more spine-chilling stories. Have a story you want to share? Or maybe one you'd like me to tell? Let me know, and it could be featured in an upcoming video. Until next time, keep your lights on and your doors locked, because you never know what's lurking just around the corner.